Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to the session, How Can Science Magazines Survive the Media Revolution? Actually, the working title was Science Magazines in a Changing Digital Media Landscape, but I think you all agree, as most of you are journalists, that it's a little bit more exciting to put it this way. And whether it's really a question of survival, that's what we want to clear in the next hour. And I hope you will, afterwards, you will know quite a lot of things about the economical situation of the big publishers of science magazines and whether they earn money with their magazines or with their digital website. And I hope I do not promise so much. But the panel is talking already. Okay. Hello? Yeah, it's quite a distance here. Okay. So, yeah, I started already. And so I promised that everybody in the auditorium afterwards will know everything about your economical situation, whether you earn money with your print magazines or with your digital websites, or even with both. So I don't know. So I'm very happy to have three representatives of three publishers here of three very traditional magazines. The Scientific American, Science et Avenir, and New Scientist, they are really traditional if you look at the dates when they were founded. The oldest one is Scientific American, founded in 1845. Le Temps, Science et Avenir in 1947, and the youngest one is a New Scientist in 1956. And on the panel we have for the Scientific American, the managing director is your managing editor, okay, Curtis Brainard. On the left side, we have Dominique Leglu from Science et Avenir and La Recherche, but we come back to it that you are in charge of two programs. And we have Emily Wilson of the New Scientist. Now to start with, let's start with the oldest one. Curtis, you look quite young for a 180-year-old publisher. Yeah. So, is it when science news are found everywhere on the web and for science information and articles, is there any reason that the Scientific American will exist? Now, not say another 180 years, but for quite a long time. Is print dead, or will the Scientific American's print issue survive?
Well, thanks, Martin. I mean, I certainly hope we'll be around to see our 250th or what would, 300 and...
Mic to the lips. I think just put it a little bit more to the...
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. Yes, so I certainly hope we'll be around for another 175 years or more. You know, why is that? It's because, sure, there's science, of course, all over the internet, but there are huge qualitative differences, obviously. Oh, am I still not coming through? Sorry. So, yes, the reason that I believe magazines such as all of ours will still be around for many, many years and decades, hopefully a century to come, is because while there's science all over the internet, there are huge qualitative differences in what you find there. And certainly for science magazines, it's the concentration of high-quality science news that I think is the major selling point. Of course, there are other general interest outlets of the highest caliber in the United States that do a great job of covering science. But, you know, it's mixed in with coverage of politics and business, sports, and so on. And, you know, there are a lot of people out there in the world who are real science enthusiasts. And I really think that that's who we're going for.
But just in particular, the print magazine, why should there be a print magazine? Why should they look it up?
It's form factor. I mean, people still love the feel of print in their hands. It's an aesthetic quality. And there's many places, I mean, technology may change this, but there are many places where it's still more convenient to read a print magazine than it is an iPhone or a tablet. The beach, the mountains, if you're going for a long trip where your batteries might run out. I mean, there are all kinds of use case scenarios where print still holds up better than digital. And again, there's just that aesthetic quality, even if you're in the comfort of your own home, of having a print magazine. And beyond the aesthetics, I think there's also an element of curation. You know, I kind of use the analogy of our website is in some ways kind of like drinking from a fire hose. You know, we spray out a lot of content. You know, there's more than 200 articles every month. It's a lot, and it's all very high quality, but it's a lot. And there is a little bit of a burden on the reader to sort through that, to decide what is the stuff they're interested in, what they think is most important. Whereas with the print edition, you have a carefully selected and curated group of articles that's been chosen by a group of expert editors based on their opinion of what they'd deem to be either the most interesting, the most important, or just simply the most awe-inspiring stories of the month.
Would you mind giving us, maybe not figures, but just the tendency of the circulation? Does it, you know, in times of internet, is it stable? Does it increase, decrease?
Oh, I mean, no, it's no secret that we've seen a decline in print subscriptions. That much is true. But it has not been as precipitous as some might imagine, and certainly as some feared it might be 10 years ago. It is clear that the future is largely digital where subscriptions are concerned, but that doesn't mean that print's days are is numbered, again, as we thought that they would be.
Okay, there are other magazines, they still launch new projects. Dominique, you are in charge of Science et Avenir and La Recherche. Could you tell us just briefly the difference between those two?
Well, Science et Avenir, which has been existing for 72 years, just appeared after the Second World War, is written by journalists. It's a team of journalists. Whereas La Recherche, I can show you, I don't know if the camera can show the last issue. Mm-hmm. You can see it? Yeah. It's about hazard. Mm. Special issue, a double issue for summer, is mainly written, or at least the main articles are written by researchers themselves. Okay. So the journalists, there's a group of journalists who all have a very distinctive and high level in science. Hélène, who's helping us for this works with La Recherche, they're guides to researchers, they're coaches to them. By the way, just before giving you figures, I would like to thank the organizers of this event. Olivier de Cibourg, who writes for La Recherche and Science et Avenir, as a matter of fact. He made long interviews of researchers for La Recherche and wrote himself. Olivier, so thank you. Thank you for organizing all this, which is a very good event. And I think it's necessary, you know, because we don't realize, us journalists, how much was put, what effort was put, you know, to be together now. I want to insist on that, you know, that's not our usual job. And I would like also to thank, as a former president of the French Association of Science Journalists, to thank the president of today, Yves Siama, who helped having a lot of grants for some of you. So that's important in our world of science journalists. It's still important. It's still important for me. Thank you to you all, the Swiss Association, the French Association, the Italian Association. So after that, I can give you figures for the subscription. As you said, a decline, a small decline in the previous years. But the fact is that on the newsstand, at least for our first 6 months, Science et Avenir is doing better than last year, 8% more, and La Recherche is doing better, 4% more. And the circulation of La Recherche and subscribers is 30,000, and for Science et Avenir is 200,000 240,000. So, you know, with the calculation that we make, you can multiply that by 10 or 12, depending on how you calculate. But that means a lot of people still. And I would say it's exactly what you said about people wanting to have their magazine in their hands. And that's why we launched, if I may say so, but yes, maybe later.
Today.
So today, that's the announcement. Okay. For the camera. We launch a new magazine aimed at younger people, still called Science et Avenir as a little logo, but the name is #Sciences. And it's for younger people like between 12 and 16. But as I wrote in the editorial, I said between 11 and 111, which means that I think that a lot of parents and grandparents who will be those who will buy the subscription, who will be the subscribers for their children or grandchildren, they might read it too.
Okay, thank you.
That's what we expect, you know, because there's maybe something which is what we have to check is that from time to time in the newsstand, it's less a competitions between titles. It's less of a competition rather than cooperation. You know, when people really want to hear about a black hole, they might be ready to buy even 2 or 3 different publications.
Ambitious, okay.
Those they trust. Yeah. Those they trust.
Yeah. Emily, what about the New Scientist? What do you now know about your readers? And of course, we're interested in your figures or just in the tendency of decline.
So like everyone, there's a slow decline in newsstand. Although our decline is less than that, but our subscriptions are good. They're our lifeline, and we're growing them. And our ambition is to double them in the next 5 years. So our subscribers are everything to us. They're a great deal to us. They're about 2/3 of our revenue is subscriptions. And we love our magazine. Our subscribers are still kind of heavily tilted to print. They love the magazine. They love the covers. I suppose we've got lots in common with Scientific American, except that we're weekly, which is quite a big difference. We try to be global, and I suppose we have our own ethos and tone that is unique to us. And we recently slightly tweaked the design of the magazine, and we knew it would be a really huge thing for our subscribers. So we had 4 really long sessions with subscribers, and they turned up, and it was people of all ages, all colours, all genders, all sexualities, all everything, all professions, people from New Age healers to quantum physicists. They had nothing in common apart from being human and being passionate about our magazine. So everything we do to it, the smallest thing, is hugely important to them. And actually, can I read a very short letter from a reader that I got today? Whenever someone says they're cancelling their subscription, it gets sent to me, the editor, just in case I can talk them out of it very nicely. And this lady was sent to me today. She said, "Dear editor, please know that this is a love letter. My husband has had a PhD in chemical engineering. He began subscribing to you many, many years ago. It's been a joyful, fascinating, interesting, and very informative part of our lives. I used to think it was just for him, it was professional. Then one day I picked it up, I read it from cover to cover. It changed my life. I'll just skip through to the end." And she said, "If you want to use my letter, you certainly have my permission. I would love to think that someone might subscribe to your magazine because of me. Thank you for all your service."
And that's the typical user, the typical reader, the wife of a chemistry?
No, it's not that she's a typical reader. It's that the feeling, reading it over the years has changed her life. And that is the feeling that we find in our readers, a kind of real, it changes the way they feel about the world, and it's something really important to them. And back to the print thing, they're very attached to, they love how it folds, they love reading it in the bath, in the car, you know. So, yeah, they love it.
And I suppose each publisher is still making money with the magazines?
If we didn't make a profit, we wouldn't exist. We don't have We don't have any benefactors or overlords with huge, we're not part of the science publishing industry. We get our money from readers and some advertising.
Okay, wonderful.
Less and less advertising as time goes on.
The same with Avenir.
Science et Avenir is profitable. Where it's difficult is that we have a very strong website with all in all 10 people, eight people plus 2 young people who come and go, and that's difficult because there are no there are some ads, but not at the level which would make it profitable. So that's the difficulty, and that's where we have to make improvement. I would like to add to the figures I gave the fact that more and more people buy us on the internet. So the print magazine, but they look at it on their tablet, on their maybe on their smartphone, and that's constantly going up. It's incredible because it means that the figures of the newsstand nowadays I have to more than double them.
Okay.
So that's very important. The point being, financially speaking, with whom do you make a partnership? So, you know, with Orange or with SFR in France, we have to make arrangements, financial arrangements. Either at the very beginning of the year, you say, well, you'll have this amount of money, or you receive a little bit of money back on each copy. So that's the new thing we have to constantly work on.
You built a perfect bridge to the next point, and of course, I learned we still the magazine, the very old magazines, will still be a while with us. But of course, in future, each of your outlets has with great ambitious website and social media efforts to reach another audience than those who still read the print magazine. There is so many websites on the web with news. Why all 3 of us would very much like if you could tell us in a 3-minute elevator pitch why users should in particular visit your website. Curtis, would you start? We can just go through your website and maybe you can show us. Yeah, you can put it up just to have a look at. But before that, maybe will you come with us?
Oh yeah,
okay. Run a little bit. Before that, just from it, I'm interested in how many of you read the print magazine, one of those print magazines, every now and then in a print issue. Quite, and on a regular basis. Yeah, not so much. And how many visited the websites of one of those outlets? Okay.
There you go.
That was what I expected, so I think it will.
But you saw how many hands went up for print. I mean, obviously there were more that are going up for the website, but there's still a lot of hands that went up for print. I think that's very much reflects what the 3 of us were saying.
Okay, give us a shot to d'horizon.
We're going to put this
to
up.
your website.
You know,
could you put
again,
the website on the browser? Can I do it?
I mean, let me just start by saying the same thing I already said. I mean, why should people come to Scientific American's website? It's because although there are many sources for news and information across the web, some of them general interest, some of them dedicated to science, there are huge qualitative differences between those outlets. Some of the content on other outlets is very thin, some of it is erroneous, some of it is just straight fake news, and that's a real problem. What we bank on is our authority and the fact that our readers can come and get news that they can trust. Yep. And that news really includes news, commentary, features, a variety of content types that cover not only the latest advances, the most important or awe-inspiring advances in research discovery, but more and more what we're doing is really pursuing kind of aggressive coverage of that intersection of science and society, which is something really interesting. It's something we've done for a long time, but we're doing more of it. I will mention, let's see, what do we have up today? I checked a little while ago. We just began about an hour ago, a 2.5-day 4th of July holiday in the US, so I'm not sure if there's a lot of fresh material up.
What means fresh material, Kurt? How many stories do you do a day? You are a monthly. You are a
15
monthly
new
magazine.
pieces of content a day. Some news, some commentary, some features. So right up at the top of the website is what we call our agenda items. These are the pieces that we think most salient of the day, what we really want to draw attention to. It doesn't mean they're all news of the day kind of pieces. It just means that this is what we really think, where people ought to start if they're going to be visiting scientificamerican.com. You can see right away that there's a mix of original content, and we still have a few content partners, in particular Nature magazine, since we're part of the same company, Springer Nature. We work with them. If you go down farther, this is our most popular module. This is a common feature on a lot of websites. This is not us telling you what we think is most important. This is what people are clicking on most in I forget the algorithm. It's the last 5 days, page views, I think is how we rank that. Might be 7 days. So some things will actually hang out there for a little while if they're viral hits. We get down to the current issue and some of the features that are in that issue. And this went up just the other day. There's a nice section where we're regularly producing digital special reports. This is one that we produce every summer in conjunction with the World Economic Forum. There is a large council of experts that we work with to draft this list of the top 10 emerging technologies of the year. It goes up first as a digital package, and you'll see it in print in the December issue. Down here we have editor's picks. This is just another place for us to call attention to something that we think is particularly interesting or salient at the moment. And where you see editor's picks, that's something we can actually change. It doesn't always say editor's picks. We can write whatever we want there. So we do try to do different things with that space. It's flexible. And then, like most websites, you're just going to get down into our videos. And I think podcasts next, and it's a pretty standard setup from there. We're going for a pretty clean aesthetic. I think like a lot of websites are these days, there's not a lot of bells and whistles. We're just trying to lay it out cleanly so it's visible and searchable and discoverable.
And what is the relation to the content of the print magazine? Is there any connection?
All the print content is online, but it's behind a hard paywall. So if you're a subscriber, you'll have access online. You also have access through PDF and our apps and a variety of other means. But all the material that goes into the print edition is behind a hard paywall, with the exception of we do a lot of digital first content. So this is something we can perhaps, if we have time, to talk about more, but we're moving in a direction of digital first publication, which means that we're putting a lot of material up online first and later pulling it into the print edition and curating it there. So especially for a lot of our news and commentary, you'll see it online first. And then it'll go into print, and when it goes into print, it'll go behind a paywall.
When I visited your website, I found quite a lot of free stuff. The news, they are all free. So how do you pay for it?
Well, we just launched a metered paywall. It's true. We launched a metered paywall, as many publishers have done in the last couple of years.
Recently?
In April. In mid-April. Yep, it's something that we had been working on, and actually we continue to work on fine-tuning it. But it's something that had been in the works for at least a year and a half, concretely, and under discussion for longer than that. But it represents a very fundamental shift in our business model. We were previously giving away all online content for free. We were essentially casting a wide net, hoping to bring readers in with that content, and once at the site, we could begin to market subscriptions to them there. we realized, in fact, a long time ago, that this was really a faulty strategy, that we were sinking a lot of resources, both human resources, financial resources, into the content that we were producing online, and that we could value that content. We could reasonably ask folks to pay for that, and I'm very happy to say they have. It's still early days. It's only been, 4 or 5 months since we launched this paywall, but already we're seeing a conversion rate 4 times higher on the website, so it seems to be working. I think the meter is at now 4 free articles per month before you're asked to buy any one of our existing subscription products, and once you do that, you have unfettered access to the website.
And your first experience is that the people are willing to pay for it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
First results look very good, very promising.
Emily, I would ask you, and please, could you change the writer, the website to this new scientist? On your website, there are quite a lot of ads, and there is a very heavy paywall. What is your experience?
So we have a hard paywall.
Very hard, yes.
Sorry, yeah, we have a hard paywall, and it's a very hard paywall. But we want traffic to the site, and if everything's behind the paywall, that will decrease your traffic and it decreases your advertising revenue. So every day, the editors, as stuff's going up, they make a call on should it be free or should it be behind a paywall. And if traffic's low or traffic to the paywall page is low, we'll change the balance of what's free and what's not free on the site. It's not a perfect or very scientific system, but we're working towards having one. I'm going to try to say things that are different from what Curtis said, or it's going to be really repetitive. Some of the things, we are already digital first in our news, so every time we do a news story, it goes up immediately. Some of them are behind a paywall if they're exclusive, or we think we've really added value that someone will pay for. Sometimes it just goes behind a paywall because that decision was made. What makes people subscribe online can be quite unpredictable, so it could be quite a short math story. People will click on it here, see it's behind a paywall, and they will become a New Scientist subscriber for quite a short math story. Normally, the big converters to turning people from browsers into subscribers, who, as I said before, are lifeblood, normally it's the big cover features. So if you go to the top, can you go back to the top of the page?
I can do it.
I think the top of the page is... we're leading on our cover story from tomorrow, is it? Yeah, so will be on the newsstand tomorrow. It's a cover story about time. Time is a very big seller for New Scientist readers. They love it on the newsstand. We probably do 1 time cover a year, and they love it online. So every cover story we would expect to bring us a lot of new subscribers. And if you go further down, there's a piece... also the big features inside. So every week we do 3 or 4 big features, which are long reads that take a long time, lots of research, and are kind of full of new stuff. And those long reads tend to be our best converters. But as I said, it can be sometimes maths is a big converter. People love health. People love everything to do with quantum. All of those things convert for us. Another thing on our website that people come for, just to say things that are different from Curtis. Can you click on video? Can you go to where video is? I think it might be at the top in the... we have a science show every year now. We're coming into year 4. It is the world's best science show, I believe. I'm not sure if anyone else has one as big. We had about 40,000 people last year in our 3rd year, and our plan is to roll them out around the world. And it's sort of a mixture of top scientists, 5 stages, and there's a kind of big show floor with features. And people who come to that event can't see everything, but we film everything at that event, and they're basically lots and lots of TED Talks, and they go on the website under video, and that's another big reason why people subscribe.
And what is the reason why they should subscribe to the New Scientist and not to the Scientific American?
That's a really good question.
Okay.
And, as I said before, we're weekly, so that flow of features is weekly, not monthly. And
the print issue, but on the web, of course,
the
it's
print,
not.
but the flow, but that does also influence the flow of features and how many big features we have. And we try to be very global rather than American. But look, Scientific American is a brilliant magazine. I urge everyone to read both.
And Science et Avenir, of course, is also a brilliant magazine, but what is the special thing of your website? What is the relationship between the print?
You can show it?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, well, the good thing about having a website that when you're a monthly, and you tend to write long features, and it's always the same, you know, fundamental sciences, environment, nature, history, prehistory. And on the website, of course, we have about 15 to 20 new articles every day. That's why we have a team to do that. But at the same time, you have the backup of the, let's say, senior journalists who have been writing for the magazine for years. So every day we have a meeting in the morning, you know, like in a daily paper, and everybody's there, unless they're on report or really writing on something which has to come out very quickly. So there's a mixture of news, hard news, and features. And the nice thing is making sort of dossier, where could it be, like on an eclipse. Well, you should go up. More than that. Go on. Right. So we organized it again with major sections like health, or like animals, or like fundamental science, because again, what we realized after a while, having a website where, you know, one new news would just chase the other. We prefer to have things organized. But in fact, at least half of the people come from a Google search. So it's very nice to look at that. But the point is, you have to make sure that Google, Facebook sees us. That's a lot of people come that way, not looking on their computer. You know, that's the old days. The point is, how do you manage with the algorithms of Facebook and Google? That's difficult. That we have to check all the time. Our community manager is now also with the new magazine for the younger people. We are on Instagram, not on Snapchat. Very difficult to make a partnership with Apple. They're very, very strong in France, and it's very difficult to deal with them. What else could I say?
You have
we have to make choices, as Emily said.
Yeah.
When we have big news, we have to make a choice whether it's free or not.
Yeah.
And I would add that La Recherche has its own website, which is not the same kind as this one. But what I'm doing nowadays is making bridges between the two sites, because they don't bring you the same thing. And the archives, all the documents we have been having for decades, you know, that's a resource. And we have to find out the way to make money better than we do with all that. You know, that's our data.
So just to sum it up, you are also optimistic that people are willing to pay for it. You have a very hard paywall too. And what is your experience? Do they pay, or are they reluctant to pay?
That's what I tried to explain beforehand with our deals with operators. Je ne sais pas comment on dit, les opérateurs. Orange, SFR, you know, the Vodafone. How do you make money with them? You know, that's the point. You have to make a deal with them. That's how you get money, or not.
Can I chime in on the point you were making about the homepage? What I should have said about our homepage is it's not very important. It's about 5% of our traffic is coming to that page. Okay. Everyone is coming through email or through social media.
Yeah, exactly.
So we try not to fuss too much about it. Somewhere when I worked at The Guardian, we fussed a lot about the homepage because you had 500 pieces of content flowing through the site every day. The homepage really mattered. Yeah. But for us, it's the piece of content, the article page, which has got the barrier on it, that's the most important page.
So you build a perfect bridge again to the social media efforts you make. You are quite ambitious on Facebook and I think on Twitter too. What role does it play in the distribution of your content?
So we have about... The history of New Scientist is that we were owned by a sort of big publishing house, and neglected is unfair, but we're lucky to have these huge audiences that we have. They haven't been that aggressively grown. So now that we're an independent company, we're very lucky to have these huge social media audiences, and we haven't really started to properly engage with them. Or rather, we're only about 5 months into really trying to engage those. So we've got about 3.5 million people on Twitter, about the same on Facebook, and we've just begun on Instagram, and I think we're on 110,000 after a very short time. Yeah. And we've only just hired a social media editor who is active in different ways on those platforms every day, creating Twitter moments or kind of long threads and engaging with all those millions of people. So clearly, if we want to double our subscribers in the next 5 years, all these people who've bothered to follow us and are engaged with us online on social media probably are the best bet we have for finding new readers, new subscribers.
And what is your strategy, or how will you do it to double your subscribers?
Well, there's many parts to that strategy, but the one on social media is the lessons that we can learn from The Economist, from the New York Times, from all of the people with a successful subscription strategy. It's all about engagement on social media. The more times people have interacted with you, been delighted with you, had contact with you, had back and forth, been involved with you, the more likely they are to come to want to be a regular reader. And hard sell is not the way forward on social media. It's always engagement. And I'm sure you've had that experience too.
Curtis, you...
Yeah, we actually are putting less effort into social media these days, frankly. We put a lot of effort into it for the last couple of years. We were also a bit slow to get our first engagement editor, we called the position. And it's important. I mean, we're not abandoning it. We're in the process of kind of rethinking a different way to use it. I mean, historically, we've just kind of floated pieces out there. We've packaged them up in different ways. But, you know, there's some more creative things we might do. However, you know, what we've seen, you know, Facebook used to drive a lot of traffic to our website. They changed their algorithm, as I'm sure all of you know, about 1.5 years ago to deprioritize brands and publishers, and since then, straight downhill. But even when Facebook was driving a ton of traffic to our website, we found that those people were very unlikely to convert. Not so unlikely, again, that we're abandoning the cause, but frankly, our current focus is on newsletters. Newsletters is a platform that we fully control. It is ours. It is owned and operated. We can do whatever we want with it.
The good old newsletter, just sending out by mail?
Like in emails.
Emails, yeah. Email
newsletters,
you know, we control them, we design them, we craft them, we put our own ads in them, and we control all the data that is associated with those. We have a much more direct relationship with newsletter subscribers than we do with followers on Facebook, for example. So the attention is definitely shifted in terms of you know, our marketing efforts and where we're seeing the greatest amounts of conversion. On Twitter these days, I mean, frankly, Twitter never drove much traffic to the website. But what Twitter continues to be great for, and where we're still using it, is to engage in those kind of conversations with thought leaders. I mean, we're reaching the right kind of people. As I said, we're pushing heavily into the coverage of science and society. So when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you know, who's become sort of the rock star freshman member of Congress, representative from New York, released the Green New Deal, as it's called, a sort of very wide-ranging clean energy plan in the United States earlier this year, we covered that and we had a bunch of commentary, and it reached AOC herself. And I mean, she has a massive Twitter following, and, you know, she engaged with us there and shared our coverage and, you know, generated a bit of conversation around that. So Twitter remains a very good platform for engaging thought leaders, more thought leaders, I would say, than the general public.
But how do you manage it, all this engagement? Interestingly, the session before was titled more engagement with the audience, but with 3.5 million Facebook followers, Twitter followers, you must have a big staff, 24 hours.
We have a brilliant and overworked engagement editor.
Yeah, we have one social media editor as well. She just works normal hours, yeah.
One person?
Yeah, but the thing is, not everyone is online all the time. That's one thing.
Okay.
Well, you have to check all the time, but you realize that people read at a certain hour and not at other hours. So there must be somebody who always check these sort of things. What I would like to say is that what we saw, and that maybe, well, I'm sure that's one of the reasons when we launched this new magazine, that we realized very quickly that people reading us on scienceetavenir.fr were much younger than the ones who buy us regularly. So that's important to us. And on Facebook, we created different names: Science et Avenir, Science et Avenir animals, Science et Avenir cerveau, and we will have hashtags sciences too. So it's you know, it's all in all, it's a different way of talking to new people. And well, you are Anglophone editors. We are a Francophone one. We have a lot of people reading us in North Africa, in Switzerland, in Quebec, in Belgium, and even in Sub-Saharan Africa. That's important to us. And you know, people who could not afford to buy us, to buy the print issue, or would not find it really anywhere. So you can find us in La Réunion, in the Caribbeans, and we sell quite a lot in those places. But it's much easier to read us on the internet. And the fact is, to go back to something I explained, the fact is that we still have to explain that on our website, at least to the ones who buy us in printed issue, that it's not only the issues that they can find on our website, it's much more than that. You know, some people, some older people didn't realize that you can find new articles on the website. They're not acquainted with it, so we still have to explain.
Yeah, you just mentioned the metrics, where you are at. What are the people who read the print issue or the web issue?
They're younger.
Is it other people? Are they distinguished from each other? The people reading the website and
well, it's quite different.
And
yes.
Scientific American.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a bit of overlap, but it's largely two different.
Younger or older?
Oh, sure. I mean, definitely, our online readership is younger, more geographically diverse, more diverse in pretty much every way.
And the same with New Scientist.
Yeah, actually, weirdly, a lot of our web audience is American.
American.
Not really sure why,
We
but
get
it
some
is.
grits.
Okay. Before I go on, I just want to have an overview. How many questions there are? Then 1, 2. Okay, then we just one other question, and then I go for the questions from the auditorium about the topics. Are there any topics you know they will fly on the internet, or is it the same? You know, we saw it the title pages. They were always astrophysics and the moon and the brain. Is it different on the web?
Well, you can never do the same trick twice, so it has to be significantly different from last time you did it. But time is a classic. Consciousness is a big seller, big classic. Reality, the different meanings of reality, you know, in the universal way, consciousness way. Also, anything to do with quantum, generally, is a massive seller. Maths. We wouldn't normally put maths as a cover story, but mathematics is, yes, hot, very sexy to our readers.
You sent me links before.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. And if I just try.
And then good health stuff can do really well as well.
One moment. This one, your biggest story ever.
So this is our biggest story this year. We chose not to put it behind a paywall. I'm not sure that was right in retrospect, but it has had millions and millions and millions of views, which is it's the first one. It's the Alzheimer's one. And it was a group of people who said they'd found pretty good evidence that Alzheimer's could be linked to gum disease, not to the old plaque theories into which all billions of research money have been ploughed. And so, well, you haven't got it up, but anyway, so that story about we may finally know what causes Alzheimer's and how to stop it. And then now and again it'll get picked up by a social media platform and it will rise again. And the other one you did have up there was about quantum theory is in trouble and the problems and that was another huge seller.
So, and that's the same, the topics are the same with your websites?
Pretty much. I'll put quantum in front of anything these days. You know, quantum cat food. People read that article. No, it's true. Quantum is very popular. The one thing that perhaps wasn't mentioned is behavioral psychology. That's very popular for us. Our most popular article of the year, in fact, it was the most popular article of the last 2 years, was a piece about why fans really hated the last season of Game of Thrones. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I encourage you all to go and read it. It's one of our best writers. It's one of my favorite writers in the world today, Zeynep Tufekci, who styles herself as a techno-sociologist. But she covered the difference, the change from sociological storytelling to psychological storytelling.
But how can you know that's anything to do with psychology? That's because Game of Thrones has billions of views, and if you put Game of Thrones in I don't really know how you could say it's the psychology that sold that.
Well, because we see a pattern. It's other behavioral psychology articles as well.
You go head over for the question from the audience. Sir in front in the 4th row. You have mics. You have mics in the queuing there. Okay, then please start.
Hi, I work for Quebec Science magazine. It's a 60-year-old print magazine in Montreal, in Quebec. I was wondering, how do you cope with the, how do you do with the sponsored content as the advertising decreases? Do you have to deal with it, and what's your policy on that? And a quick other question about Apple News instant article on Facebook. Do you know what to do with that?
Who wants to answer?
My instinct on the Apple News and Insta thing is that there's nothing in it for us. But on the first thing, sponsored content, our policy is that we do it, but we massively clearly label it so that the reader could never think for a minute that it was an ordinary article in the mag. And under those conditions, I'm very happy to have that. I wouldn't allow, you know, a Nazi supporting group to run sponsored content, but as long as they are people who are interested in science and discovery, they're really welcome in our mag for me.
basically, my answer is the same as Emily's for sponsored content. We do a good business there. It's all clearly labeled. We're happy to have it. We do reject some proposals. We have limits. Apple News, we actually signed up for that, and we are working with Apple. We're in Apple News and Apple News Plus. Too early to tell. Too early to tell. We see some promise, but so I would say guardedly optimistic.
Well, I think all the ads on our website are well designed, and you see it's an ad. But we have problems with Apple, as I say. We don't manage to be on Apple News yet. We insist, but they have different ways of behaving depending on the country.
They're not easy to work with.
No, they're not.
Thank you. The next one, please.
Hello, my name's Rebecca White from New Zealand Geographic magazine. You spoke about how your subscriptions are doing pretty well, but I'd really like to hear about your revenue and whether or not that's changed. We sort of see about it mostly from the outside in terms of the rates for freelancers becoming very depressed. But I wonder if you are seeing a revenue change, and if so, how you're adapting to it and what you're changing within, if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, our revenues are increasing. Where subscriptions are concerned, with print, I mean, it depends where you start, but if you go back long enough, certainly, as we've all talked about, there's kind of been a slow, gradual decline. I think it might be the same for us, that we do have a very loyal readership. I think there is something about science magazines that people do stick with them. But nonetheless, there's been a slow decline, but actually, that's rebounded starting a few years ago. And so subscriptions are not perhaps what they once were, but they're actually trending upwards, and with them, revenues are trending upwards.
And the other aspect for freelancers writing for your website?
We pay well. We've increased our freelance rates because we realize, I mean, look, what's the challenge now, right? If you're going to ask people to pay for content online, especially, you've got to have something that's uniquely valuable, more credible, more interesting, whatever. But if we're going to get that kind of content onto our site, we need to pay top dollar to bring it in, and we're not going to do that by short-shrifting freelancers.
I think our freelance rate's okay as well. We pay the standard basic news rate. It's 51p a word, and I don't know what that exactly equates to. I know in America they probably pay more, but I don't think that's that bad.
Yeah. I don't know if you were talking about the website only, but we don't have much published by freelancers on the website. It's really our team in-house. And what we would publish who could have been written by a freelance is what was printed in the magazine. Okay. That's how we operate with them. It's very difficult, to react every day with freelancers. It's more on the long run.
Okay, next question, please.
Okay, hello. Thank you for the inspiring discussion. I'm Thomas Gohl. I'm the editor of the University of Zurich's Science magazine. And I'm interested in your digital-first strategy. You spoke very warmly about your subscribers, about your print magazine, and still you do this digital-first strategy. Does it not feel like getting like the leftovers if you have the printed magazine and you have read all these articles beforehand online?
Well, you can only read them all if you're already a subscriber. So for subscribers, you could get stuff beforehand, some stuff beforehand if you go to the website, or you could wait to get it in the magazine. And some people are digital only and they'll get stuff when they get stuff. So I suppose if a story that was free online has gone in the mag, that might annoy you. I'm not sure that happens very often, though.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. You might miss it online. You only get a limited number of things online. Again, there's just that difference with the print experience, that it's not all about the articles themselves, but the curation of those articles into a singular package.
Also, our readers, if they came to the website and they didn't find the story about the black hole, the photograph of the black hole, as soon as it had happened, they'd think we were a terrible, terrible publication. So there are good reasons to be timely with your news. Yeah.
But it won't be the same story. You have to write a certain way on the web and another way in the print issue, of course. It won't be the same. On the reverse thing, which is something which was published on in the print issue, and we could put it on the web afterwards behind a paywall, or not, if there's an event which makes you appear it free, so that people see that they find a lot of interesting things and well-written things about this subject. But of course, as you say, you have to be there for the black hole, and you write something else in the print issue, and after that you go back. You know, it's I don't know how you say it in English, but it's a ping-pong thing. You know, but it's diverse each time.
Okay, next question, please.
Hello, thank you for this session. I'm Estrella Burgos from Mexico. I'm the editor-in-chief of a much smaller magazine that we produce at the university, and we sell it commercially at a low price. So I was wondering about the size of your staff and the amount of money you spend on freelancers, because you see on the printed magazine, you see the directory, but it's never been clear to me how many people work in each of your magazines, the three of who I follow. Thank you.
We're about 40 full-time staff journalists, but we pay loads on freelancers, so lots of our content is written by really valued freelance contributors, and our columnists are freelance as well.
As well on the web page as in the print.
We don't really differentiate between where our content goes. We don't, I mean, on the black hole we might do a sort of special write-up, and we did a big feature on the black hole, but the news stories that go online are the same news stories that go in the mag. We don't quite have that difference.
Okay, Curtis?
We only have 15 article editors on staff, and then we have, it's really about 35, 36, 37 in the newsroom if you include the art team and production and copy editors. So it's really actually quite a small staff, and like Emily, we spend loads on freelancers. Most of our content is coming from freelancers.
There are no freelancers, we learned, but you have a...
Oh yes, we do have them, but they tend to be around us, you know, on specialized pages, you know, on nutrition or about the sky, or you know, on very specific subjects. So but they're not full-time employees, so to say.
And the staff?
For the staff, it's around 25. But everybody, print and web, and you know they're mixing. You know, it's a mix. I don't want to make a difference between people. So some people write for the website. At times, what they wrote, they rewrite it, and it will be printed. And on the other hand, the persons who've been there for quite a number of years, they also write for the website. Some of them manage very well, doing both. Some others, it's more difficult because you have to write pretty quickly when you're on the web, of course.
So we learned you feel well prepared for the future.
Yes.
At least for the present.
For the present.
You feel well prepared. Oh, there are two. Oh, so sorry. But okay, we come back to it. Just have these two questions.
Sorry, very quickly.
Yeah.
I work in a communication staff, a research institute in Italy. And I would like to know what are your news sources, so how you choose your news, and if the digital area change this process of choosing the sources.
One person maybe only.
Science news gathering is no different from any other kind, except for the fact that we have journals. So obviously we trawl journals, and we try to trawl a wider range of journals than a kind of general interest newspaper would. On top of that, you have your specialist reporters who have contacts, who goes to a conference, who are out in the world, and you know they might go to a conference and they'll get the beginning of something, and they'll go to another conference and things will start to form, and they'll have so it's a mixture of old-fashioned contacts journalism, conferences, journals, and stuff that happens in the news, and then us adding our expert added value to our reading. We do a lot of analysis and insight based on what's happening in the world through the prism of science and technology and evidence.
Yeah, basically the same for us. I'd just add that, yes, the digital era has changed this in ways because there are news sources. And tomorrow, I'll just go ahead and plug the panel I'm moderating tomorrow on preprint archives. You know, I mean, preprint archives have been around for a couple decades, but they've really, risen to the fore recently, and that's a valuable new source of news gathering.
The same for what they said. On top of that, what changed is that now we can sort of decipher the news. Something happens, and we have the ability, because of the web, to explain it scientifically if it's needed. Whereas in the old days, you really had to wait. And now, whatever happens, on the climate, but not on climate, but meteorology, you react immediately, and you have to have good sources to write something which is relevant, of course.
Okay, thank you. And the last question?
Maybe this is a dumb question, because you all belong you are all in very established and traditional outlets, and I was wondering if you have any insights. For example, in Spanish, we don't really have that kind of publications. So if you have any insights for starting magazines, I don't know if you...
Wow, I mean, that sounds like a really good business opportunity for someone. If the kind of the new scientists or whatever of Spain doesn't exist, there will be readers who will pay for that in Spanish, you would presume.
We have a Spanish language edition, Investigación y Ciencia, based in Barcelona. It's about half translated content, I believe, half originally produced local content. We did start a Spanish language section on our website a number of years back. Unfortunately, it was short-lived.
Okay.
Although, something which is translated, that's great for some of the features, but in fact, I think one has to be, culture is local. Even if science is universal.
I come from Latin America, so if it was from Spain, doesn't...
But my advice would
they
be...
have a website.
My advice would be, if you're starting a mag, is stay tiny, keep your staff tiny until your revenues grow, and then start hiring. Don't run too fast if you get money up front.
Absolutely. Control your overheads.
Just one question from my side. One sentence answer, please. If you try a vision in the future, not 150 years, but maybe 5 or 10 years, do you have any vision what will be the new trend? What will be the new hype? Where will your magazines develop?
In 5 years.
In 5 years?
I mean, I think voice is a huge thing, and that's the kind of big concern for us and a big thinking point about where machines that react to your voice and everything that goes with that future is, to me, feels like the most realistic thing. It feels, going into a room and talking to the thing and making it come on or do whatever feels very realistic. More realistic for me than augmented reality and other things that people talk about.
I would agree with that. Voice is one of the things I'm most excited about. But actually, I was going to add, I'm also pretty excited about AR/VR opportunities, app-based AR/VR things. I think we saw a lot of kind of, frankly, corny examples of AR/VR that came out of the gate first. But, that's what happens when
augmented
you're
reality and virtual reality.
But now I've seen some things that have really kind of convinced me that there is a future in that scheme.
Dominique?
We make partnerships with robots who talk, and we make a partnership with Renault to have podcasts in their cars as a premium level. And of course, I hope in 5 years it will be successful.
Okay. Thank you very much for this inspiring discussion. Thank you very much for coming here and the interesting questions, and have a nice evening.